Getting around in Jamaica is very easy, very safe and budget friendly, if you know how to do it. If you don't, you can lose a lot of money and, what's also important, a lot of time. I've decided to break this topic into several parts. This is part 1, focusing on private transport. Why rent a car in Jamaica? Is it actually safe to rent a car in Jamaica? And is driving really difficult in Jamaica, like some experts might suggest? Well, let's get into it and have a look. My name is Irina and I've been driving in Jamaica for the last 6 years. I've been to every single parish and I'm eager to share my experience. Let's start with addressing the very frequent question: should you rent a car in Jamaica? The question of whether you should or shouldn't rent a car in Jamaica depends on 3 factors: where you are staying, what you want to do in Jamaica, and do you want to drink alcohol while doing it? Here are a few examples when renting a car is not a good idea. Let's say your goal is to relax in your resort and stay within your town area. Why should you want to rent a car then? You don't. Just use public transport or private drivers. That's it. If your goal is to get a couple of tours to attractions somewhere, maybe in a different town, again, it might be easier to simply buy a tour so you can fully relax and let a professional guide to drive you through Jamaica.
This area is called the Melbourne Park.
Melbourne Park?
That's the area of the community.
You should not rent a car in Jamaica if you're not an experienced driver. I mean, if you don't feel confident driving in your home country, this is some good reason not to rent a car in Jamaica. So, when should you rent a car then? For everything else pretty much. Here are a few examples. If you're staying in an Airbnb where food is not served and you either want to cook or go to restaurants and cafes, then renting a car is a huge help. It will save you a lot of money on transportation. The other situation when a car rental is a must is when you want to visit some off-the-beaten-path places. It's very easy to book tours to popular attractions, but finding group tours that will take you, say, from Montego Bay to Blue Mountains is not easy. And even if you do find them, it can be really pricey. And I'm talking about from $500 per tour, if you're lucky. By the way, if you ever wondered why most tourists travel around north coast of Jamaica and a little bit of Treasure Beach, it's not because the rest of Jamaica isn't interesting. It's because it's very expensive for tourists to get there. So you either need to rent a car or use public transport, and a full guide on Jamaica public transport is coming up on this channel soon. But of course, car rental offers the freedom you want when you travel. Just to give you an idea of the cost of car rental in Jamaica. A cheapest vehicle like this one would cost around $45 per day, which consists of $25 for the car itself and $20 daily insurance coverage. These are the lowest rates you can get with authorized car rentals that have all the coverage and quality cars. Please note, this video is not sponsored by any of them, but I live in Montego Bay and I'm happy to share some contacts. I personally prefer to rent cars from Ucal's car rental. They are located close to Montego Bay Airport. This is a local Jamaican company and it has proved to be very reliable. When I first came to Jamaica, I also tried the international brands, Budget and Thrifty. They are also pretty good. These are the 3 car rentals in Montego Bay that I personally used and can recommend. And I will leave the links for their contacts in the description down below. Please keep in mind you will need between $500 to $1,000 on your card for a deposit when renting a car. And yes, you can use your US driver's license in Jamaica, as well as Canadian, British, German and so on. Now, before you rent a car though, there are several things you need to know about driving in Jamaica. The first point to make is driving on the left side. Obviously, if you come from Britain or India, not like it's a problem, but people from North America would usually get worried. I personally don't understand why people make such a fuss about it. I drive on the left in Jamaica. I drive on the right when I go to the country where I come from, which is Ukraine. And that's like after 24-hour travel with no sleep, jet lag, and sometime in snow. For any experienced driver, this isn't a big deal at all. If you want to learn how to switch between the sides so fast, just learn the mantra. When you're driving on the left side, like in Jamaica, repeat, the curb is on the left, the curb is on the left. So the left wheels of your car should always be by the curb. So when you're making a right turn, the curb is on the left, the curb is on the left. When you're approaching a roundabout, the curb is on the left, so you're going this way. The real major problem when switching sides is confusing these things for indicators with wipers for the first few days. Jamaica now has quite a few good roads, and they are the ones that will take you to most famous attractions within the island. There are good highways that go along the north coast from Negril all the way to Port Antonio and beyond. From March 2016, a brand new highway is available as a very fast connection between North Coast and Kingston. It's a toll road, but absolutely worth it. Just to compare, it now takes me about 3 hours to get to Kingston from Montego Bay instead of 4.5 hours like it used to. However, if you go off the main roads, you can often find smaller roads with potholes. The situation is rapidly changing and the roads are being built every single day, but still, it's always better to check with your host or your tour guide which road to take if you're planning to go off the beaten path. And this is where we should point out the Google Maps and GPS situation. If you're traveling within popular areas along the north coast, Google Maps and GPS are okay to use. But they often don't give you the accurate time of travel, so don't rely on this much. If you need to find some place in the hills or along the south coast, well, this is where Google Maps fail very often.
Can't find a way there.
No way.
Подожди, так и связи нет, наверное.
Связи тоже нет. Не, ну один на самом деле есть.
А еще было что-то, да? Короче, понятно.
The place where you want to go might not be on a map at all. Or it can be on a map, but in the wrong place, like 50 miles away from where the map shows you. The worst is when Google shows the right place, but it doesn't give you the correct road to use because it thinks a shortcut is a good idea. It's not. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to go to Mayfield Falls that are in the middle of, well, nowhere. Google Maps will think that this is the road you need to take, but don't, because parts of this road have been washed off by rain and this shortcut will take you twice the time to get through. So the better way to get there at the moment is using this route. How would you know which road is good and which one isn't? You won't. That's the problem. This is when staying with a host in an Airbnb or making Jamaican friends who know the area comes in handy, because they can give you the directions. Keep in mind, people who live in one community might not know what's going on in some other communities because they don't travel there. So it's always better to ask people for help who live closer to the place where you're going. Kingston is covered pretty well, but sometimes GPS in Kingston leads you into the roads that were closed down a long time and Google Maps says, drive through and there is nowhere to go. So my point is, use GPS, use Google Maps, but don't rely on them too much. They're okay with the North Coast, but anywhere else in Jamaica, they just give you the approximate idea where to go. My American friends came to Jamaica, saw the fuel prices, 145 Jamaican dollars, did the exchange rate and went oh, it's $1, like 120. The fuel is so cheap. Those private drivers must be overcharging us. They thought it's a price per gallon. Guys, the price is stated per liter, which means it's about $4 per gallon in Jamaica. Not cheap. But if you rent a small car, it's very economical. The full tank will be around $45 and you can drive from Montego Bay all the way to Kingston and back and you will still have 1/3 of a tank left. And here comes another important point to make. Some people wonder if they should get a four-wheel drive vehicle. Of course, a four-wheel drive is more convenient, but you can actually go anywhere with a regular car, unless you wish to drive to Blue Mountain Peak to go for a hike. In this case, yes, you will need a four-wheel drive, and it should also come as a package with your skills of driving a four-wheel drive off-road or on dirt roads. Do you have the skills? It's not only the quality of the dirt road there, it's also how steep it is and the U-turns you have to take.
Прохожу слева.
Да.
Да.
Да. Отлично. Колесо уже выйдет.
The locals who live in the area do it all the time and they're really good. So if you're not experienced driving off-road, just drive your regular car to Kingston and from there book a local driver to take you into the mountains to the head of the Blue Mountain Peak Trail. By the way, you can drive many other roads in Blue Mountains using a regular car, no problem. It's just this particular one to the peak that is difficult. There are a lot of narrow roads with tiny pavements or no pavements at all. In small towns, you will see people walking just along the road simply because they have nowhere else to walk. This is not a Jamaican feature. It was unfortunately inherited from the past of the European colonial rule. The houses were built within a certain distance between each other in the same manner as in old Western Europe. And it's not like you can move them now to make the roads wider. There is simply not enough room for cars and these sidewalks. And please, it's not anybody's fault either, because nobody knew in the 17th century that cars would be invented. A lot of European towns also have these narrow roads and it's a pain. And of course, Jamaica has some of that too. Also, when driving, watch out for dogs and goats along the highways and roads in rural areas. They can jump in front of your car sometimes, so watch out for that. The other thing you need to know is night driving. A lot of drivers don't dim their lights, so this can blind you, especially if it's raining and you don't know the road. Just don't do night driving unless it's absolutely necessary and you're willing to take the risk. By the way, to avoid being blinded by the headlights of the upcoming car, there is a trick you can use. Just look down at the left front corner of your car so you will still be able to see the traffic coming and the road, but you won't be blinded. Some people drive really fast and they can stay really close to your car, not keeping the distance. When this happens, the best way to deal with this is to let them overtake you as soon as you can. Because if there is an emergency and you have to brake, they won't have the time to stop. I would usually just wait for a safe moment, move a little bit and just show them like that, let them pass. By the way, exactly the same situation is applicable to many other countries in the world, including my home country, Ukraine. And this brings me to the most important question: is it safe to drive in Jamaica? If you're a confident, experienced driver, it's absolutely easy to drive in Jamaica. Yes, even Jamaicans think that the traffic is really bad in Kingston downtown or Montego Bay downtown. Guys, that's not bad traffic. Let me show you what bad traffic really means. nothing like this in Jamaica. People keep talking how dangerous it is to drive in Jamaica because of reckless drivers and bad traffic. It would usually be the people who haven't seen the rest of the world. If you don't go central Kingston or central Moore Bay, and if you don't drive Friday evening or at night, it's very easy to drive in Jamaica, even though there are reckless drivers, but the roads are pretty much empty. Having said all that, driving is dangerous. In general, you get yourself in a metal box and you go faster than a human ever should. So, lock yourself in and never leave your home? To wrap it up, if you are a good driver and you want to experience the country, rent a car in Jamaica. If you're not a good driver, learn to drive before renting a car in Jamaica. If you're not a good driver and cannot learn to drive, well, don't rent a car in Jamaica. Hire a private driver instead. Relax, have a drink, and enjoy yourself in that way. And of course, we're going to cover all the alternative options in separate videos, such things as scooters, bikes, boats, airplanes, hitchhiking, and so on. Please don't forget to subscribe if you want more tourist tips about traveling in Jamaica from a traveler who now lives here. In part 2 of the series of Getting Around in Jamaica, we'll be covering public transport system in Jamaica, which is kind of unique in so many ways and can be perfect for backpackers and people traveling on a tight budget. But for now, if you found the information in this video useful or fun, don't forget to give it a like. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Irina, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.